Welcome to JLive. I'm JArt's Executive Director, Laura Mandel, and it's great to be with you for JLive. JLive is our series of virtual cultural experiences that bring us together to explore and celebrate the diverse world of Jewish art, culture, and creative expression. We're bringing you bite-sized conversations with the best Boston area talent. Today, I'm excited to be with artist Deb Putnoi, whose work I have admired for many, many years. In addition to her own drawing, painting, and some sculptural work, she also teaches drawing in a way that lets us all shine with our inner artist. Her email address, fun fact, is Art for a Change. And that's something that's stuck with me for years, ever since I met her, because it's so beautifully telling of who she is. Especially in this moment, in this week, Deb is so important. So, before we start, if you have questions during our conversation, please share them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and I'll ask as many of the questions as time allows. So, Deb, let's start. I love the wooden books that are in front of you that we've talked about, and I'm especially drawn to the one that features your grandfather, who I know is a key artistic influence in your life. Can you share the books and tell us a little bit about the books and your grandfather?
Sure. So I have there are two books, and both of them feature my grandfather, and these are very old. So the date on this one is from 1995, so it's a while back, and some of my earliest works were about my grandfather's experience in the Holocaust. He was a Holocaust survivor, and from a very young age, he shared his experiences with my brother and I before I could really process kind of what he had gone through. And when I was in art school, I really used that time and that early time in my art career to kind of use the art as a catalyst to kind of understanding his history and my history. And so these were books that I created about, this is what my grandfather looked like when he came out of the camps. He was from Vienna, Austria, and was taken into the camps at a very young age. And I created, these are books on wood. And in the middle, I was doing a series of writing. I like to write as well. And so I was writing letters to Anne Frank, about her experiences. I was very kind of taken, maybe you would say obsessed with kind of her story and her diary at a young age, because I think that was my way in of understanding. So I wrote, these are all writings that I had written that I then collaged or etched into kind of the gesso, and they kind of comes in here, but they're all collaged into the background. So that's one book. And this is all kind of mixed media. It's part, prints that I have, drawings, fabric, nails. This is an etching plate that I've nailed into the surface there. So it's just like I made etchings from that, and then I just used the plate. So that's one book is here. And these are probably, I'm not a sculptural person, but these are kind of sculptural pieces. And then this is a second, again, my grandfather's image is on the front there with kind of this etched journal writing of mine. And then it opens up this way. So it's kind of a box, and then goes on this side.
Can you read us a little bit of what's on the front under the photo of your grandfather?
So this was part of when he came into the States. I think he came in through Hias. I'm not 100% about that, but it says the above photograph was taken in order to obtain my passport. The clothes I am wearing are those of a friend of mine who was killed on the same morning. The signature is affixed so that my mother would, and that's all that is
Wow.
is there.
Wow.
Sorry about my clock. Live TV in the studio.
Love it. We love it.
So, and that is just different journal writing. So here you can, like, I haven't looked at this in a while, but from 1991 says, Dear Anne, and then I just kind of write about kind of my experience of being kind of a second generation survivor. And it just, how it affected my life. I think that it's always been kind of central to my work. Whether it's overt, like in these pieces, or whether it's more about the catalyst for why I do my work.
So speaking of the catalyst, I think there's so much depth to all of your work. So not only is it beautiful, but I think there's these amazing layers of story. And you've told me a little bit about some of the work you've done in response also to 9/11, the last few weeks surrounding COVID, and even in this moment, terrible, terrible moment we're living in this week. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and some of the other works you've made in response?
I mean, I have to say, like, it's not to get teary, but it's just in this moment of time over the last couple of days, especially, everything feels like super poignant in terms of, just where we are in our time as a country. And, I think arts are always kind of on the forefront of trying to make sense of what is happening. And there's a way to kind of deal with the issue, deal with what's at hand, with the emotions that come up. So I always feel like in this time, I feel so overwhelmed, but I also feel this kind of not blessed, but kind of blessed that, I have the arts as something to kind of use in terms of making sense of all the chaos and confusion. And, so even being able to draw on my sketchbook or draw out my feelings or work with kids to help them kind of connect with their inner turmoil. I think art is a way to bring us all together. And, I think that really, besides making art, I think my biggest part of my art making is to build community through art and bring people together and help them find their own visual voice, because that is like the center of, if we can help people understand who they are as individuals and that they all have a message and they're all important, everyone's important, everyone's message is important. Like, that's the real power and beauty of art. No one's expression is better or worse than anyone else's. And so that really is what I've been thinking a lot about this week. And, and then just how to process, just everything that's going on.
You mentioned your sketchbook. Can you show us a little bit?
Yes, I brought my sketchbook because I was this was really got to me. So the first night, I just was doing just sketches of George Floyd. I did a whole series. These are the only ones I have here in my sketchbook. And then yesterday, there's a march in Boston yesterday, and my son's friend emailed me and said, "Can I take that?" Like, I had posted this sketch on Facebook. He's like, he thought it was very big. He's like, "Can I take that to the march?" And so I didn't want to take it on my sketchbook. Then I painted a whole, 5 of them. And then he and all his friends took the paintings of the sketch to the march. So I felt like, I think kids know the importance of art. Like, they know the power that images have. And I think especially this generation, and they're really leading the march in the forefront of getting these important messages and helping to change, structural, the way things are. And so it was really touching to have him respond in that way, to kind of say, like, I want to use this and I want to get it out into the world. But my goal is to really help kids help everyone make their own work that they can feel confident in and bring.
I love that. And I love that he wanted to use that as a poster. I think that's so beautiful and amazing.
It was really powerful for him to do that.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Drawing Lab and how you actually help people sort of bring out their inner artist and express themselves?
Yeah. So going back to my grandfather's story, like, early in my career, I was really fortunate to show my work and be in gallery, like, have that whole kind of experience. And 9/11 hit, and it was at a time in my career where, like, things were really positive, showing a lot, but I really felt like I wanted to do more in the world than just sell work that was on people's walls, which, is important, but I wanted to use my creativity as a way to bring communities together. And, after the aftermath of 9/11, in those first couple of weeks, when my kids are about the age of your kids now, really little, I couldn't really get into my studio. Like, I couldn't paint. I felt like it was just, the only thing I could do was draw trucks. I could draw the backhoes, like, at ground zero. And then I just felt like that the creativity and the art could really bring people together and to really help us to see who each other is. And so I worked in a Cambridge public school where I really developed the Drawing Lab as I was working with these kids from pre-K to 8th grade, as using the language of drawing as a way to build community in their school. So every kid had a sketchbook, and it was a way to, like, you know, everyone could make a mark on the page. So, and the teachers and the kids, so everyone can make a bumpy line, everyone can make a broken line, everyone can make a fast line, and no one's is better than anyone else's, so that we all have our own individual mark. So in this time when there was like, people were kind of, I felt we were coming together but divided in a way that when everyone lays out their papers on the ground, everyone, you know, you couldn't tell whose was whose, but everyone was one of a kind. Everyone has their own unique visual voice. And it was really through that, and like helping people not think that drawing has to be realistic, that you have to draw something to look like something, that it can really be about something that's from inside you, whether it's listening to music and drawing, or, you know, drawing in emotion, like really helping kids access their emotion, their emotional life through drawing their marks on a page, that was a way to kind of build community. And then what I witnessed happening in that time was that the voices in the community, really in the classroom community, became equalized. Like the kids that maybe didn't have a voice started to have a voice, and the kids that maybe had the voice all the time were really like the leaders in the classroom, were starting to listen to the other kids. And so the drawing became just like the catalyst of building community. And then from there, I just kind of took it out of the classroom and started to build drawing lab installations that were really set up with like the same ideas of the things I was teaching in the classroom, but like smelling and drawing and tasting and drawing, and like ways to get people to just experiment with this core aspect of being human. And you'll see like your little girl who's almost, I mean, she's scribbling away and she's not thinking about it's good or bad. She's just like connected to that part of herself. And we all have that. And then as we get into like first grade, we start to lose connection to that self. So it was really born out of that as a way to bring people together, as a way to use my, what I knew about the power of arts and creativity to make change. And it was really like, I wanted to be able to do something concrete that wasn't just about making the art, and, you know, in kind of memory of my grandfather. Like,
I love it. I think this is why we get along, because I think this notion of art is so much more than just something beautiful, and it is beautiful, but it's also how can it connect us? I think that's just beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit about the piece that's behind you? You know, you're talking about, you know, not everything. Yeah, I love that. Can you show us a little?
So the big totem, I don't know if you can see, I can push this back a little bit, but it's pretty tall. And it has little boxes and, you know, doors in it. I don't know if you can see. So there's a door here, there's a box here, and then there's a little tiny drawer here. And then inside this drawer, just so you can kind of see, there's little, so this is like a standing drawing lab. It's like all in one contained. And I do have one of these at Temple Israel that is all based on Jewish items. So you stick your hand in and you feel like there's a shofar or a Kiddush cup, and then you draw the things that you feel. And then in here, in this little drawer, is like little envelopes, and inside there's little touch and draw. So like there's some cotton ball, and so I just have people like draw the little. So these were installed in a place where I couldn't do a whole installation. So the whole installation is housed within the totem structure.
That is so clever. And I have to say, your attention to detail is incredible. Even just how you've painted on the sides of that drawer, and there's so much to unpack in this.
This one has, so in this little drawer, there's like in there, and then these have they're little tiny books inside. So
what's in the book?
About Ramadan. I think this is based on Moby Dick. I was starting to do a piece about, like, so little collage pieces about Moby Dick inside here. But they're all like like maybe 50 tiny little mini books inside this one.
I love it.
Because it was once housed in a library. So I think it was something to do with Moby Dick, if I remember, that I was working on.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so we're getting near to the end of time, believe it or not, but I have a few questions that I want to ask you, and the audience has some questions. So my next question is simply, you noted to me the other day that we all have things that are getting us through this time, and whatever that means to you. But you told me how much your grandmother really inspired you here. You already talked about your grandfather, but your grandmother inspired you. Can you share the park bench story? It's just so beautiful.
So that was my great grandmother. So it's my grandfather who's in these images. It was his mother. And so I was thinking a lot. I actually wrote a little piece about this, that, you know, my when my grandfather was taken, it was very early on in the time of before the camps were even kind of created. He was brought to help build the camps. And so my great grandmother, so she wouldn't get taken or found, would sleep on a park bench in Vienna every night and go to her store in the morning. And so as bad, like, I'm trying not to get teary, but like anytime, like in the last couple of weeks, that it's been really hard. I just think like, at least I'm not, I don't have to sleep on a park bench. And like, I was just thinking, like, could she even sleep? Like, I just had all these like thoughts recently about, you hear these stories, I think, as we grow up about our history, and then to like, to live through a time that is kind of unprecedented, at least for us, and think like it's so horrific, and it is hard. But then I think about her story, and then to really think about her story, like, what was the bench like, and what was the park like, and did she actually ever sleep? And so, so when it gets harder, my kids, I have 2 college kids at home, like, when we're fighting, whatever, I think like, okay, I'm not sleeping on a park bench every night. Like, this is within the realm of things. Like, we can do this, and we can get through this, and we can learn how to make our society a better place from what is happening. But her kind of, that history living in my head has helped me kind of think about, that we're going through a tough time, but it could, and I think the last couple of nights, there's so much work we have to do to make it better for everyone.
Yeah. I think the way you express so much of this through your work is really, really impressive and inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question from the audience about the totem and the drawers. And someone wants to know, did you construct them yourself?
I did not construct them myself. That's a good story, because the first wall, I will remember this always, I did a installation. Well, one of my first shows was at Clark Gallery when I was pretty young, like out of art school. And I think it was for the show. And I made the boxes all myself. Like, I'm not a woodworker. I made them myself. And then I had a friend that, he was a woodworker. He's like, let me make your boxes for, like, they were just, it was before you could go to the store and buy like the made boxes now, like where everything's kind of, this is like before all that. You had to do your own canvases. You couldn't just go to, so from then on, I just like will design them, and then I have someone that will build the boxes and the totems for me. So I am not a woodworker. I'm not good with math and attention to detail. So my things are all like wobbly, and which maybe has a nice quality sometimes, but it wasn't.
So even if someone else has constructed them, have you ever created a totem in partnership with a community? Like you mentioned the one that lives at Temple Israel. Was that a community project, or how did that come to be?
Yeah, so the Sadaqa Box, which now I think is like 25 years, it's really old. It was made with this guy that was making my boxes a long time ago, and we wanted inside to be like a play, like you put the money in and it would make all these sounds. It'd be very, Ooh. But the outside of it was a family project. It was like a family kala, and we did something I led a whole workshop around giving and like, what our hands do and how do we do. So everyone that was in the program did their images, and then we collaged them on and then painted it. So it was like an all-day event of creating the Sadaqa Box. So I love doing things with communities and creating, co-creating things, and have done that a lot in terms of that. But that was, I think, my only totem I co-created. But I've done murals with that kind of work, which, is very inspiring.
Deb, you're giving me ideas, and I'm guessing others on this as well. I love it.
I always wanted to do a totem for like events, like have totems along like a march or something. And then people kind of, I have like lots of totem Sadaqa ideas, but.
All right. If you all are out there watching this and you have ideas, please reach out to us after, because I think this would be a really cool community project.
Yeah, it would be great. It'd be really fun.
Yeah. Okay, so we are just about at time, but before we wrap up, will you give us the 1-minute description of your Kids Creativity or Kids Hub Creativity Lab?
Okay, so I have 2 things I would love to share. First is the Creativity Lab, which is $20 a month. And if your kid is between 5 and 18, it's I go on every week. I give something that relates to a theme. So like this month's theme is marks and mark making. And then I teach printmaking, drawing, collage, and painting, I think 4 things. And I give little kind of ways to work in a process-oriented approach. So kind of follow the museum school where I went. It's very much about process, getting dirty, making mistakes, and like getting involved in your process. And then I just put out, as of last night, the Art Activist Toolkit, which is really for any age. You could do, you know, families could do it together, teens, adults. It's learning how to make postcards, silkscreen a t-shirt, or silkscreen a hat, make a bright, vibrant poster, silkscreen poster, make pins, make a mask. So it's a whole range of, you know, things that you can learn about how to get your message out into the world.
I think that's fabulous. And for all of you wondering, I just put the link to the Art Activist Toolkit in the chat. So if you would like to participate, the link is there. Deb, this is wonderful. You've left us with so many thoughts about the world right now and what we can do in this time. Before I wrap up, is there anything else you would like to leave us with?
I mean, the one thing I wanted to share is that I know that everyone is feeling a lot of things right now. And what I tell anyone that will listen to my, is that if you have a piece of paper, if you have young kids or teens or anyone, the 2 things that could help in terms of what you could do right now just to be calm is, number 1, put some music on, put some classical music, jazz, and just let your pencil dance on the page to the music. Close your eyes, just like just get centered that way. And it's a great way to just connect to yourself and find a bit of calmness in your life and kind of all this craziness. So
I could not agree more. So smart. Yeah.
The other thing, you can draw your feelings out you can draw your frustration.
So everybody should be starting a sketchbook like you have, is what you're really saying, right?
Everyone should have a sketchbook and draw their feelings out on the page. Make angry marks, whatever kind of, make sad marks. Get your, you don't need anything fancy. Back of an envelope.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that. Thank you so much, Deb. Before we leave you all, I just would be remiss if I did not tell you that coming up this week and next week, we have some other really awesome JLive opportunities. Tomorrow night, we are speaking with Josh Frank, author of a book called Giraffes on Horseback Salad, the story of the movie that Salvador Dali and the Marx Brothers and the strangest movie never made. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. All information is available on the JArts website. Next Monday, we have JLive Art with artist Rachel Hammerman. Monday, June 8th, I discovered her when we actually commissioned her to make a mezuzah for the new JArts office. And on Tuesday, June 9th, we have JLive Music with klezmer great Hank Snetsky, who, fun fact, actually performed at Deb's wedding many years ago, which I love to discover. And on Friday, June 12th, if you are into food, we have Annabelle Rabia of the Awafi Kitchen Iraqi pop-up. Again, that's June 12th. A great lineup ahead. And last but not least, as the JArts tagline says, let culture connect us. To make this all possible, we rely on the generous community support like yours. Please consider donating if you like what you're seeing with JLive, and the donate link will be in the chat. Of course, you can follow us at JArts Boston on Instagram and Facebook. And thank you so much, Deb. We've loved being with you. I've loved being with you.
Thank you for letting me share my studio and my process.
No, thank you so much for doing it. And we'll send out some links after with her art activist toolkit and some other things. So thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful week, everyone.